Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey since the very beginning. So thank you, Folgers. We couldn't do it without you. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, for his contribution of his voice, his music, of course, and his time for the intro that you just heard. He is an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on any of your favorite music platforms. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind all of the banners and logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the horror genre and does phenomenal commission pieces. So tonight, we welcome for the very first time Jeff Selver, and he's going to be discussing his book, The Rising and the Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened City Here on Earth. He says that the Rising, which was an agreement for him with gray aliens to discover his soul. The Rising required him to take a leap of faith, sell all of his possessions, and it basically began a life of traveling from place to place and put him on a whole other journey. He's even going to touch on how gray aliens seem to be showing up with other contactees, I guess in the afterlife.
Oh,
I know, right?
Oh.
So, but I know, that's kind of cool. I love it. So, hey, everybody, tuning in. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Very nice.
It's
Hi,
Friday
guys.
Eve.
I know. Hello. I know. So, yeah, I think it's going to be, pretty cool. And we shall definitely see. So, for me, this is like, okay, it's got a bit of a paranormal undertone to it. So, we're going to see how much
That helps
paranormal
me.
undertone. Yeah, as we wait for our guests to come in, yes. So, but I know.
Helps me that there's a paranormal undertone.
I know. And here he is. All right, guys, are we ready to roll? Awesome.
Yes.
I know. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, Amelia. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Good. Yeah.
Good. Well,
great to meet you both.
Well, thank you. And nice to meet you as well. Welcome to the Outer Realm. I mean, you've been waiting a bit to get here and we're thrilled. So looking forward to it. I'm going to put up a copy of your book because I want to show it off.
I was going to say, where are you that it is so bright?
You're I know.
On the West Coast.
Yeah, West Coast. Yeah, I'm in Vancouver, Canada. Yeah.
That's why. Oh, the great Vancouver.
Yeah.
I have to get there soon, but I'm going to wait. And we won't get into the politics of it. But wait a little bit.
We won't.
But yeah, I will get there.
So
I love it. It's stunning. Yeah.
So yeah, it is. It is stunning. You got it. Definitely.
I've been to Seattle and I hear it doesn't look too different. So, but except for, being
I think it's a smaller city and we're more landlocked actually.
There's
you can't grow into the city as much. So it's so you got access to the beautiful city, then beaches and mountains. It's just so beautiful.
You can go skiing and swimming in the same day. Like
you got it. It's 100%.
Yeah. Not that I ski, I just hit the bar.
And you could do that as well too. You could do all three in one day. Yeah, all four.
Yeah, I'm the one who stays back at the chalet. But anyways, beautiful book.
That's great. Thank you. Yes, that too is also really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll flash it about throughout the show.
Yeah.
So, very intrigued because you and I sort of chatted a little bit, through email when we were booking everything. So anxious to delve into everything, and I know we've got a lot of both UFO and paranormal people who are watching, because there seems to be a nice blend. So I always like to start with humble beginnings, because one doesn't always just fall into this. I mean, some people do, but for a lot of contactees or experiencers, I think it happens even from childhood or from family members. So where would you like to start? Why don't you just start us off on your journey?
Well, you got it. It actually starts young, and it's really a weird game, because the memories were obscured for quite a long time. And so I believed I had a relatively normal childhood. And my defining kind of feature of the book is this very weird thing that happened to me when I was in my 20s. And I always describe it as a consciousness event. It's something I wasn't attempting to do, but it happened. It changed me, and it had some weird defining features that I now only can find in the UFO phenomenon. So it changed my body in a weird way, and I saw light. When I closed my eyes, I could see my hands, and there was kind of like light gleaming from my body. And there was a kind of God realization thing that came out of it. Though I wasn't trying to do these things, it had no. In a weird way, I was kind of a victim, and that's also so unique too. It doesn't, which maybe I guess you could say is also part of the UFO phenomenon. And so I had a message, kind of a message that came with it through the synchronicities in my life, through some things I had read, and some through dreams, and it was to leave my life, to actually like get up, walk out the door, and leave everything behind. Kind of to travel, but I thought I was abandoning society. And I did it, the premise that it was a spiritual journey. And I was listening to these kind of visions and things that were occurring to me. And then when that happened, then there were objects in the sky kind of thing that were a part of it. And that was over a span of about 2.5 years. And so there was a weird set of synchronicities that had me leaving to go traveling. Then traveling was just kind of this magical, mystical set of, things that would happen to me, plus with weird objects in the sky. Then it ended in a weird way too. I had a weird kind of synchronicities that had me ending traveling. I met my to-be wife, and it was a beautiful love story that's in the book. And then I meet my a Vedic guru. So it's kind of this capping off. And at the time, because you don't have the answers to these things, I just thought, okay, I was meant to meet my guru. I was meant to meet my wife with this beautiful woman and this guru, and that kind of was the whole point of it all. And it got left like that. And that was kind of it. I thought I had a relatively young child, kind of relatively normal childhood.
Do you have any recollection as a child of having encounters?
No, I had screen memories though. I had weird memories. That's the only way to frame them. Just strange. And when you don't know that something is a screen memory or is, it's you just have a cabobulated, for example, I was a child and we were in we were all on vacation, and I saw a truck driving backwards on the other. So we were kind of in a loop on the highway, and as I'm staring, I'm in the back of the car, and I see a truck driving backwards with nobody in it. And you don't have a way of framing this stuff. So you think all you're seeing is I'd read about ghosts already at that point. So I think I assumed I was watching something paranormal, ghostly like. And so much so that as a child, I'm certain I told my parents, and they brushed it off, even though it turned out to be a contact event and they were involved. But I was the only one with this kind of weird, bizarre memory. It impacted me so much, I went looking to tell someone about it. And then I found a weird book on objects of the unknown type of thing. And then in the book is, please tell us your weird, the things that you see. And then it literally in script, it says, unless you'd seen a truck driving backwards with no one in it, we won't believe you. And so,
all right, that's different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so one of the researchers who worked with me a little bit said, do you think that the book really said that? And I said, no, I don't believe it said that. I believe something is, doing something to my mind for me to shut this up and not to look at it. And it's just small stuff like that. And
Right.
then and so you don't have anything really out of place. Some tiny events that turned out to be contact events, but everything was hidden. It was all kind of stuffed away in the back of my life. And
Right.
when it all
Right.
comes forward, it seems that was what they wanted. They wanted it to be not known about. And so what they would do with me, I wouldn't put it together that I had alien contact, and I would believe it and live it out and try to make sense of it and make meaning out of it.
How old were you when you saw that?
That event, was 7. I'm pretty certain I'm 7 years old. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. That was Harmony. Wow, my goodness, that's very young. Yeah.
Yeah. The when all the memories came out, there's 4 contact events in the one summer, and it's 6 in the beginning of the summer and 7 by the end, and it's all condensed in this one area, and that was the last of it actually, and it involved my family. And so that was it. And then I had no other weird events, nor other contact until I was 16.
Right. And what happened at 16? Because now, and were you able to remember them?
Okay, all the memories, everything I'm telling you comes out at the age of 41. So so basically everything got buried. And I think that the more I'm kind of researching this odd phenomenon, I actually found Linda Porter, who actually talked about this, that the entities can stop time. And then I have someone who in the field here who's got a CIA connection, and they were like, oh, they actually know about this, and they call it slotting. So the entities can stop time, go in, pull you out, do things outside of time, or do something with you in that environment.
Is this like the missing time phenomenon? It would be similar, or is that different?
Well, I guess the idea here is that the entities are able to manipulate time. Right. So either they're stopping it or expanding it. I think maybe that's what missing time could be, is someone has a 5-minute contact event, it turns into 4 hours missing, something like that.
That's time on our side though, because
and I think there's I think that's the whole thing, is that they are operating in different places of time, and one of the things here they can do is stop it. And I was public about this stuff for about a year and a bit, and when I learned that. And then there's some evidences in my own contact. I was public first about all this because this was so personal to me. Right. And a researcher was involved the entire time. Ian Halling, who works with Linda Moulton Howe, was basically there since day one that this all kind of I was talking about it. Right. And so then you have this record of these weird contact events and all the details, and then learning weird things like they can freeze time. And then there is a contact event with me and my friend where my friend is frozen and his eyes are open, and I'm assuming for 2.5 years that, I guess they can just freeze people's bodies, but never really putting all together. The eyes were open, and they would dry out his eyes, and so the idea
that's kind of wiggy for sure.
Yeah, the idea that they could freeze him instead, and they were actually freezing the moment. Right. And then there's a couple of the contact events that seem to display that, and I was really not comprehending that at the time when all the memories were coming out. And that's what I'm convinced this is. We're dealing with a lot of cases that they can freeze it, and then they also know how to do the mind stuff. So then they can just really, you have no knowledge. You're driving home, you're walking home, and then there's a contact event, and you just thought, unless it wasn't disturbing. I think that's the part of it too. As long as you weren't in some kind of emotional, extreme subconscious shock from the contact event, it just gets buried. And that's part of it, is that I actually liked what was happening to me at the time. Right. That was the most shocking thing to realize, that I actually liked these entities. And then
you felt a sense of comfort, right?
Yeah, great question. Comfort.
You were like them, so there must have been some kind of comfort level.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit. Yeah, comfort is an interesting word. I think there was kinship. So the whole thing that there's DNA, linked DNA, and then the other is their crafts. Comfort is a good word, but it's not exactly it's not the word that encompasses
familiarity, perhaps something familiar.
It's like they changed the entire electromagnetic field, so it just feels like
you were just chill.
God.
Yeah.
But it's so you don't know how to process things that way, so you're just like, it feels really good in here, and you don't know. And I think that's why the telepathy is all very
Yes.
fluid, but the environment feels good, and I don't even think the word "good" is the right word. But the bottom line is that even though they're uncomfortable looking, when you can get past that,
Right.
it's actually a warm and beautiful environment, and
Right.
and so yeah, for several
Did
contact
your friend
events.
feel the same way?
I don't know. Yeah,
Right. Oh,
I
you
never
didn't talk
learned.
about it after that?
No,
Af-
again, so it was wiped from
Wow.
mine and his. Yeah, mine and
Right.
his memory. Yeah,
Right. Because
yeah,
that's like, here you're saying, no, this is what I see.
yeah.
You know, did you have this discussion with him and say, look, this is what I saw? You were like
Well,
frozen and just like,
okay, I tried reaching him out to him presently, yes.
right.
So
Yes.
that night is so
Right.
the point about the contact events is
Yeah.
that there's these what I call markers. There's something that happens that was so significantly different in my life, whether it's a weird dream I remember for years, or it's there's a weird event. So me and him actually have a shared weird experience. So that when I call it my sixth contact event, and it's out here in Mitakata Park, and I'm 20. I'm 20. I think I'm 20 years old, and we're hiking, and then because I'm in this agreement with these aliens to do this experiment, which is what the consciousness thing was.
Yeah.
So that's what this is all about, and they freeze us, and it's the entities trying to figure out which one is me. So he doesn't this guy doesn't know who we are, so he has to come up and check us both out. And I guess this is some kind of frozen, altered state. I don't even really understand it. And then he checks out my friend, and I'm panicking, just from this. What the hell's going on? There's this crazy creature approaching my friend. I also don't know this creature. I'll interact with several familiar creatures, entities, and this one is like brand new. He's like got a new mission to help. He's doing something very specific, and so I don't recognize him anyway. And but bottom line is I'm just freaked out. I don't know what's going on. And then he approaches me, and there's a sensation of him going into my brain, and there is the whole telepathy of like, oh, this is the one kind of idea. And then they're tapping something, or they're hitting something in the brain, and I become aware of. I call it the me that knows them. It's this linear It's this linear. It's a person who's aware of all the contact events. It's this insane thing that happens in my entire story here, and so that's basically it. I get altered. I remember like, oh yeah, I'm in this agreement with these guys, and I also I love this stuff. And so I go back with him, and there's a craft in the forest, and he's checking out my magnetic field for this experiment that they're doing, and. Sounds totally insane, I know.
No,
And
well, I hear all kinds of things. I'm very curious though about the agreement.
Yeah,
And how it came to be.
Yeah,
How did you
okay.
know you had an agreement?
So, okay, so let me just close this story.
Of course.
Yeah, so he checks me out. I go back to something's so good. Something is like he's happy. The entity is happy, and that something is right. This will all go well, and he's checking stuff out. But sends me back to the pathway in the forest where I was with my friend, and then I don't even know what he does with me, as if I get put into some altered state. But I see him approaching my friend before that happens. So it's kind of like he did something with my friend. And then that's it. We're back at it. We don't know what happened, but we both have this insane bliss in our hearts. And we get to the top of the mountain. We're in this weird state of ecstasy together, and we don't think too much about it. I end up having past life flashbacks on the mountain privately. I don't tell him about it. And then a week later, I call him up, and he's like, "Hey, have you been feeling amazing every day you wake up, like with this giant, like this heart filled with bliss kind of thing?" And I was feeling that way the entire week. And we both were like, yes. And we kind of remembered we hiked, and we just felt it had something to do with the night of the night we went hiking. And that was it. And so I journaled it, and made a note of it in my journal as a weird, shared experience that me and my friend had that we both didn't have answers to. And it turned out to be, all the memories are open, turned out to be a weird contact event. And yes, I did try to approach him about it, but he never.
He's never spoken about it?
I don't know how he interpreted it. I don't know. all these years later, I lost touch with him, and I did find his contact, but I never got a way of getting a hold of him. So yeah, it didn't work out. So I don't know what he thinks of that, or if how he interprets that. So
you didn't name him in your book then?
I name him without naming his, he was a pseudonym, if you will.
Right.
That's
Right.
good.
Yeah.
We have a question or
yeah.
comment.
Hi, Dolly.
Can you? Yeah.
Dolly says, "Can you please describe the craft outside
and in?" Hi, Dolly. So I'm assuming the craft that I went into the forest with. So I'm assuming that you're talking about this specific contact event. So contact event number 6 here. So I go down this hill, and it is so everything is documented, by the way. So nothing here is coming out of my head. It's all been very public. It's all my book. It's all presentations, and I've been talking about it for several years. So the craft itself was like an eye shape, basically, and on 4 tripods, and it was pretty small, actually. It was like, I think I say something along the lines of 10 feet in the book, and it was silver, metallic silver, and it had stairs coming down it, and the doorway was actually quite small also, and he was about my height. So it's a weird gray alien, and he's my height, and he doesn't really have a big cranium either. He looks like, relatively, he actually kind of well, except for the face, but he's the kind of shape and size of a human.
Well, can I ask you how tall you are?
I'm about 6 feet. Yeah, that's probably some sort of 6 feet at that time too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we climb in, and we have to crouch down to get into this craft. So it's a really strange thing. We get inside, and then the inside is big. So though it has no real definable walls, it's just a white space. And then there's a table. It's kind of a weird dimension thing going on here. So there is a weird a table to the left of me, and it kind of curves like it's a part of a wall that's there, but I don't really have the answer to this. It's as if there's like kind of a wall there, and then there's a table, but really there's no other walls. And then on the table is equipment strewn around. And so that's what he ended up using. There's a device on there he's picking up and puts in his hand, and he's measuring, or I don't even have the words. He didn't explain exactly what he was doing, but he was checking like the field or something in my electromagnetic field. And so he's confirming something, and he actually is moving it around. And the joy thing that that me and my friend have happens here, and it feels like it's something to do with the device he's using, and it's kind of affecting my field, and it makes me feel amazing. It's joy would definitely be, bliss would be more the better word. And so he's touching obviously something with my electric field is the only answer I have to that. To the right was like a control panel, like a cockpit, if you will. And there was a joystick. Actually, I did see a joystick as well too. Not that I saw windows really, but definitely kind of a console where he would sit. And again, this idea that you're dealing with some kind of weird dimensions in the space, because not like I clearly saw clear walls, but there's a cockpit and there's this table, and that's pretty much it. And it was just this white space. And he does this kind of thing with me. He wants me to turn around, and then that was it. His words were like, "You're ready," kind of thing. So,
okay, did he say the same thing to your friend?
Well, I don't see him interacting with my friend except for that moment where I see him approaching him. So I don't know what.
So that's the only time that you have the same thing in common.
Yes. So it has me confused, as if he brought him in or did something with him, or maybe brought the device. I don't even know. And yeah, you got it. There's this idea that he did, as if my friend could crack these, memory open, that he had a contact event with a gray alien also that very same night, which is why I reached out to him actually. Yeah. So, and that was it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I go back down, and then I walk back to the pathway, and I, like, they're in charge. And at the time I was very, I liked them. So
Right,
I was just
right.
trusting. I was trusting I was trusting all of it, actually. I just trusted the entire thing.
Well, I think you look at an experience like that, it's very profound, you know, and so many people walk away with fearful experiences. It's sort of refreshing to see that it's an experience that's more enlightening or
Yeah.
endearing in a way.
So my whole story is a weird twist. I have all the positive. I have several contact events that are very positive right to begin with, right from the get go.
Right.
I get my share of trauma actually with it. It gets uh,
Oh,
hairy.
wow.
It gets to the point where I start fighting with them, and
Right.
so yeah. So it has. I have both things actually, and but it starts good is how I think it's. But that has me like learning and understanding them as well too years
Mm.
later, and I think that's the big thing that they wanted out of this. That you know,
Yes.
by having the positive stuff first made me really understand their level, the space, the dimensions, the space that they're on, the
Mm.
consciousness level. When you
Right.
start dealing with all the stuff that everyone else had to deal with, which is biological, maybe pushy about that biology, and then it starts getting really well. There was a period where it was negative, so
Mm.
that's safe to say. But anyway, so
Yeah, no, it's great. Well,
yeah,
before we get too far off track, I'll have just a couple questions.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Hi,
go.
Heidi. Hi, Heidi. I like that. And I love that name. Heidi asks, have you met or been contacted by others besides the Greys?
yeah. So I do interact with several humanoid species, and no names except for the Palladian actually was given to me, but no. Um, I guess he was like a
Right.
Venusian from Venus.
Venusian. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I interact with him, and I actually there's a whole thing where I go with him, uh, and uh, and he's the main humanoid I'll interact with. I do interact with several other types of humanoids.
Right. Well,
Um,
this is probably the next question while you're explaining it.
Yes. Hello, Michelle. This I read it when as soon as you typed it, and I was like, "What? Have you ever seen the half alien, half human?" I have
Hybrid, I guess.
flashbacks. I have flashbacks of a gray with blonde hair.
So this
Beautiful.
is where you were going, which is why I thought I would include it.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I never quite interacted with like half gray. I never interacted with half grays, half humans, though for one of the biological moments I did. So let's put it that way. But it was like it's too brief to talk about it.
Right.
And other than that, I see hybrids in tubes, but I don't actually interact with any humanoid gray hybrid type that I think I maybe seen or heard about.
Right.
So I don't have that.
Right.
So there was the previous question. Yeah, I guess it was just the humanoid. So, the other thing I wanted to say was the mantis. So that type, not
Mantis.
yeah, I don't call it the mantis because it didn't look like a bug, gray or
Mm.
green mantis type creature, but this guy was the leader of the program, and he is the same archetype and had the same kind of configuration with the hands and then big
Mm.
eyes on the side, big yellow eyes.
Right.
And so I interact with that species as well too. I eventually learned, I went through this whole program and this whole experiment with them, if you will. And then at the end, really the 23rd contact event, it's all him. So he's
Mm.
like, this was my program. You did this, and this was all about this. I designed this, is what how he explains it. And
Right.
I'll have 2 interactions with him actually.
Arcturians. What about them?
Yeah, no, I don't have anything I can't
Right.
label Arcturian yet. Yeah, I
Okay.
know there's so much going on here.
What are
This is-
Arcturians?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're blue, I believe.
Oh,
Blue or dark gray almost. Yeah. Any images that
oh,
people have talked about
like the
anyway.
Blue Man Group.
Yeah.
Kind of. No, because I've seen things in visions, not
Right.
that I've had contact with it, and I always called them the Blue Man Group, but I didn't because it was the
Right.
only way I could refer to them because I don't know
Right.
I don't
They
have these
are.
kind of
Right. Right.
experiences. So
So you've had these incredible experiences to the point where they're life changing, and you are about to embark on a journey and just say, heck with it. getting rid of
Yes.
everything. I'm
Yeah.
traveling. So let's go from there,
Yeah.
or
Okay.
whatever we're missing in between. Feel free to
Yeah.
fill it in.
Yeah, you got it. So you actually asked a question. You said, "What's this agreement about?" So
Yes.
when I was 16 years old, I was walking home, and the reality here is I prayed to be abducted by aliens. I had read Whitley Strieber's book Communion in the year 1993, and I was just in grade 11. I got pulled out of my library by my girlfriend, and I read it at home, and I remember slapping the book closed. I had this ball of excitement to be abducted by aliens, not knowing I had the childhood contact events.
Right.
And then, when I don't know the time, it could have been days or a week, but it definitely wasn't that far because I was thinking about it in the contact event. I'm walking home from hanging out with my friends, basically in the middle of the night,
Right.
and basically an alien drops from the sky. It sounds totally insane, and I panic, and it freezes me, actually, and that's the kind of things that are hard for me to process in the memories, that I'm actually sitting there mid motion, frozen, and then it's trying to say, "Hey, like, it's okay, we're not going to harm you." But what's happening is all the childhood memories are kind of opening up. So that brief period is all kind of coming back.
Right.
So it's 10 years ago though. And so I'm like having trouble like kind of processing what's going on.
Right.
And then it's saying, come with us, we're friendly. And it's asking for my permission. And that makes sense when you understand what it ends up doing with me, what they end up doing with me.
Mhm.
I have to be on board. I had to agree to it and want this. And,
Right.
There's kind of a moment where it gives me a second to think it through, and I actually am having recollection on that as a 16-year-old of the childhood contact events. Like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then I actually agree, and it takes me, and I'm in a craft. And the bottom line is that they see an event in my future. Now that event that I go traveling, they kind of see it in the future. They see it happening in the 4 years from the future, and they want me to basically agree to it, and that to this experiment.
Right.
And that's that. So it's an agreement to discover my soul, is what it is.
It's
And
interesting because at 16 years old, that's a pretty big decision without knowing full on what you're getting yourself into.
yeah, so there
Pretty
are
incredible.
several things that happens, the reasons that happen.
Right.
Number one is that they show me I have their genetics in them. So part of the childhood contact events was something that my childhood mind couldn't process it, but they showed that to me. They showed my mom on a medical bed with a
Right.
giant needle in it, and my mom willingly, actually, part of that. And so they were saying basically, like, we have like, there's something of us in you. And then on top of it, I had a learning disability growing up, and made me kind of a quirkier but highly creative teenager. And I was questioning this other part of me, and they basically kind of framed it that that's us in you. That's like that part of you that's a bit odd is us in you.
Right.
And so they're answering things in my life that no one else could answer. And part of it was to say, if you agree to this, you can't tell anybody else about it. And also the other half of it is that they were already in my life. So having those childhood contact events, and they were already effectively, doing whatever they were doing. I was always safe.
Right.
And then, basically that's it. I was always safe. So they were always kind of in control, and I didn't seem to get harmed. And they also feel, that kind of element of, she called me one of theirs. So you're one of ours. So then there was already that kind of like trusting camaraderie. Basically, it developed.
Yes.
It took some time, but it developed. And in the end, I agreed to it. And that's kind of it. And largely because it was highly fascinating to interact with them. And I wanted to see where it went. I didn't really know what they were talking about, but I wanted to see where it went.
So they required your permission to continue?
They wanted me to agree. Yes, 100%. It was an agreement. I will not. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was an agreement. Yeah.
Wow.
And I agreed.
Right.
Yes.
Well, it sounds like it's been a very interesting journey for you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
upon this agreement and this experience, when did it what did I say, the game changer, the life
Yeah.
changing, what made you just get up and say,
Yeah.
okay, now's
Okay.
the time. I'm
Okay.
ready.
So let me reiterate something here for those who
Oh,
are listening.
yes. All right.
I need to frame this. Okay.
Okay.
So I've passed a lie detector test. Right? I have videos of UAP.
Right.
All this is available on my website.
Can I ask where you took that lie detector test? Sorry, I work in criminal field,
Oh
so
yeah,
I
it
have
was
weird questions.
it's all on the website there. It's a detective, like an ex-detective.
Right.
All this. There's several certifications for.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're quizzing me on things I've forgotten, but that's actually on the website. All his certifications.
No,
So
I'm
he's,
not quizzing you. I'm just
no.
inquisitive.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
It's good. I'd like
Yeah.
to have those answers off the top of my head, but I don't. And so, but there's several several certifications. I know. Anyway, he impressed me with them.
Yeah.
And he was a South African police department, and so he's an ex-detective, and so he was a private detective that has a lie detector test, basically, is what it was. Or
Yeah.
process of it,
Okay.
Which helps. Yeah.
Well, he knows what he was doing. Yeah, definitely. And so the videos of the UAP. So 2 videos of three of them technically. And then the other element is that, so never mind having 2 researchers kind of do deep dives in my content, the overwhelming amount of corroborations my content has, not with other data sets in this phenomenon that I've been very public with and learned about kind of as I went through it. So the UFO BC database has the objects remember I was telling you about the 16-year-old childhood contact event.
Mm.
So I'm crossing that field. Well, that field had a similar craft that I saw that night in the database years later, but in the exact same location. So it's really like in the UFO BC database, someone witnessed a weird object in the exact spot, the exact same size as my object. So strange. So there's weird tiny connecting pieces like that. Some of my contact events happen in the areas of missing 411, actually. Missing 411 Canada, and
yes.
so weird geographical because a lot of them happen outside and I'm traveling, so they end up having weird geographical connections with things in the phenomenon. Never mind, similarities that I've met people who've been in the same rooms in the craft as I have been into.
Right.
So it's stuff like that with these crossovers. I've done everything I can to validate my experience, if you will. So trying my hardest because I know how unbelievable it sounds.
Right. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. So okay. So let me tell you this.
Just go at your pace.
Yeah, you got it. So that first contact event with a 16-year-old, I call it the first one because that's where the relationship really started, the agreement.
Right.
That's number 1. There's 7 contact events.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 6th one was me talking about my friend. That was number 6.
Yes.
And then the 7th is basically a final, where they say we're going to initiate this experiment now, and so basically they have this ability to something with their eyes, and I finally read this in Dr. David Jacobs' book that the right eye sometimes can actually have maybe a blue flicker. I think he just called it a blue flicker, but for me it was a blue vortex literally comes out of her eye, and I guess she's kind of programming me on the 7th contact event. And the first thing that she says is, so it becomes hypnotic, and I see imagery, and so she says to refrain from sexual activity, and that's I didn't expect that. And then the second is, we're going to need your biology. So I had no biological contact events, and I didn't expect it to go this direction. And she's prepping me like, the next time we meet you when I start traveling, after this thing that we've been planning, this experiment we've been planning, we're going to start needing your biology. You shouldn't really word it that way, but basically that's what ends up being said here. And I get kind of shocked by it. And
I guess so.
Yeah, and I got sent down basically and put back down, and I'm not in control. and that's kind of it. I don't know how to handle that. And I also don't know what, and now I'm like kind of fully into them. So I was actually a bit confused. And then when I don't really know how it happens. Like I get back in the car and then they just, if I don't know what's going on, I don't know if they're unfreezing time or they're just changing my mind, or I don't even have the answer. So that's it. And the memory gets buried and I'm driving back home.
Right.
And then over the next month, there's like well, technically I read a book that does it. And basically it's a book of people who don't travel, who abandon their lives and live on the edge and live on the will of God. And by doing so, synchronicities happen, magical events occur, and things get fulfilled, and they find their food, they find their house, their shelter, if you will. So they're always kind of, by living on the edge, there was always this kind of like magical thing that kind of happened for them. And I resonated with that, and it's hard to really explain how that happened. I resonated with it, and I wasn't really searching for the experience that ended up happening, but basically what ends up happening is I get kind of triggered by it, and I ended up seeing light in my. I was recording a journal at the time. It's December 6th, 1997. I was 20 years old, and is when it really starts. And it's I could feel my spirit moving my body. I could feel unity. I would look at the mountains. I'd feel myself in the mountains. And
like just a sense of awareness of everything.
Yeah, it's
being
something
one with everything.
You got it. And something got very, very elevated, very fast. And
Yes.
And so there's this bliss thing going on in the cells thing is such a weird part of it. I didn't know anything about chakras. I could feel like a culmination of energy at the top of my head. And I didn't understand it, and I didn't know how to process what was going on, nor why it was occurring, except for that it got paired with this message to, with these people. And I got triggered from what these people were talking about. I resisted it like any human probably would or should.
Right.
And I suppressed it. And actually that was very hurtful and painful, and it created its own trauma, repressing this kind of like intense spiritual awakening. Because I didn't know what was going on with me, and I didn't really understand it. And then when that happened, basically 2 months into that process, it all went away. That awakening went away. And when it did, I actually realized I was looking for the old me.
Right.
And the old me was a guy in fear. It was kind of a weird thing that happened in my head where I said, oh, no. I can't live in fear. I can't be that person because that guy lives in fear. And I kind of went, okay, whatever that thing was, I have to just actually accept it now.
Right.
I had to just do it. I just finally made this weird point in my mind. I remember where I made it and what made it, but that was it. I was on the couch and I said, I have to do this. And I started selling my CDs, sold my music equipment, and everyone was like, what are you doing? I cut up my cards. I had, banks and all that stuff, pulled everything out, cut everything down, just shut everything down. And then right away, a magical thing happened. My mom gave me a car. She said, oh, you can have the insurance, and this kind of thing rolled out. Oh, by the way, the whole thing was wrapped around my parents leaving. So my parents moved I was now living by myself. So it was synchronized. That's the whole part, is it was synchronized. My life had fallen apart around me. And I was determined to hold on to it. And yet the message was to leave my life. Mm-hmm. And that was basically it. When I did.
I think things fall apart to push you into the direction you're supposed to go in.
Yeah, you got it. It was, and I had no real, I was into spirituality. So I understood some things already at that time, but there's no internet. And I was like, you have to buy a book and read the entire book, and right front to back. And
the old-fashioned way.
The old-fashioned way, you got it. And so I only read like 4 or 5 books at the time. So I didn't have that. I knew that this meant something. I knew, for me, it was the universe was communicating to me. And I understood. How old
were you when you did that?
This was 20. I was 20 years old. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was like, I wasn't a meditator. I wasn't seeking to find God. Not in that way. I wasn't looking for that type of experience to happen. So it was a forced experience. And then the repression, that 2 month of repression really screwed with me, actually, because when I decided to travel, then I thought, oh, what have I done? Because now I need that intuition. I need to be intuitively in line to know what the hell to do now, because then I just started living out of my car and had no money and had no
Right.
nothing.
When you
And you're
say
thinking to
oppression,
yourself, I'm on an adventure.
Yeah, and you're literally trying to just be like, okay, how can I
Right.
open myself the most possible way to just be guided? And I had to do it every day. That's the crazy part, right? Every day I had no idea where I was sleeping. Every day I had no idea how I'd be feeding myself, that kind of thing. So
Right.
how
Sorry,
did
Amelia.
no, I was going to say, what do you mean by oppression? Because for us, oppression means it's something demonic, like you're coming to an
re-
exorcism.
repression. So
Repression.
I repressed myself. Yeah, I repressed
Okay.
myself. Yeah, I
You
pushed
scared
my.
me there.
Yeah, no, nothing like that. No, I
Yeah.
was repressing that awakening. I didn't want it. I was saying, no. I want the
Oh,
old
so you're
guy back.
pushing it away.
Yeah, I was pushing it away, and it's causing physical problems. I actually had.
Yeah.
I was trying to go to school, and I was having heart, chest, and headaches and stuff, and it was.
The
It's a
stress.
really,
Yeah.
it's a really screwed up thing, and yeah. So, but I
So
listened.
it's
That's
kind of
all.
a bout of tough love in a way, like School of
That's
Hard
it.
Knocks. Yeah.
That's it, and I will not regret it. I won't. And if now learning it was all initiated by the entities. You're
Mhm.
right. It's got this hard love kind of thing to it. It's not too
Right.
different from that. I agree with that.
Why do you think they would put you through something so hard?
Well, they're learning. That's how they framed it to me. So
Okay.
this,
Right.
what we do with you will help us understand humans as they move into an evolution of the soul.
Mm.
So
Right.
they see a big change going on, and then they needed to do things, I guess, to humans to figure out, where do humans sit on these spectrums, I guess. And the truth is like I wasn't kind of a hippie family, or like I have a bit of stoicism from my dad, and
Yeah.
then my mom was open-hearted, having kind of psychic abilities, and so
Mm.
there was a bit of a kind of mixture of things, and it makes sense to me too. Like I had to battle myself, and I think they wanted a person who wasn't fully super spiritually open, and then
Right.
had to figure himself out through it,
Right.
give him a lot and see what happens. So, and I think there's some genetic things there too that they really liked, which they eventually will start taking at that point. But
Mhm.
Did they ever communicate with you why they chose you?
there's an agreement in the afterlife.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, and so in
Well,
the first
yeah,
contact event, they show that to me actually.
I've heard that. Yeah, even like before coming here, or it could be something that goes back into your lineage at some point in a past life that said, because I mean, they have time on their side. Time is very
Right.
different for them, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that I know of that. I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Mine definitely starts in the afterlife, and I
Oh,
would just
interesting.
stick with that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
they definitely show that to me, and so there is a whole bigger picture to that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So like a soul contract.
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you got
Right.
it. Yeah.
Okay. So you're going through the School of Hard Knocks. You're living in your car. When does it get better for you? Because I think adventures are supposed to be exciting.
Yeah. So for the first year, I'd say it's a bit rough for that first year.
Right.
1998, and it's just so oddly synchronistic to when all the memories come out. This was the year they were just constantly taking my biology actually. So
Right.
and it turned into a fight at the end of the year 1998. And it's safe to say it had its own trauma in it, and it gets better by the end. I'm traveling so I travel for 2.5 years, and as I get more comfortable being on the edge like this and relying on spirit, and I really just got comfortable and confident in synchronicities, messages, dreams, listening, and also visioning the power of you call it willpower, but it's visioning the things that you want to have happen, and
yeah, manifestation.
manifestation. It all played a part in traveling, kind of being on the edge all the time in the spiritual way. It was really a powerful growth, and so it got better at the end. It's the best way to explain it. But the first year, I felt lost actually, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And then the
Well,
top,
soul searching is difficult.
it is when I abandoned my life, and then
Yes.
you're trying to figure out who you are outside of that. Yeah.
Well, it's hard because you're outside of your comfort level. I mean, we find safety for the most part within our environment. So you're abandoning your environment, you're abandoning everything you know,
Yeah.
and everything just up and changes, and you're in a whole other world, so to speak. You're sleeping in your car, you're going day to day, you're surviving day to day.
Yeah.
And it's
Okay.
interesting. It's like, well, this is what you have to do to find yourself. Wait,
Yeah.
isn't there a better way?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
It's, and
Charity
I
work,
yeah, I
anything?
Well,
don't
there's
I
a
know,
lot
right?
of people end up living in their cars and then being incredibly famous, like Avril Lavigne. I'm just saying.
Who knows?
She lived in her car for a long time.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, some people sadly right now are in that situation as
Mhm.
well. How did you
Right.
get through day to day?
Yeah. So I did have some fascinating visioning, manifestations with money, and so right away I had $900. I basically sold everything, and what was left was $900. I left my house with $900, and I like already had a punctured, like, when you have like not bad karma, but when you are so insecure in your life that you actually manifest something worse.
Oh, the
Yeah.
power of manifestation is
Yeah.
pretty incredible. A
So
lot of
I
people
injured
don't believe
myself
in it,
within,
but
yeah, you got it. I injured myself in like 3 weeks. And so I had to like get stitches for a punctured foot. It was so
Ah.
brutal. And so money was burning up really fast. And then it was actually Conversations with God was where the book Conversations with God, Neil Donald
Mhm.
Walsh. Yeah. That's where I learned about the kind of idea of the manifestation. And it felt very, purposeful, this book placed on my lap. So I said, okay, then I'm not in the circumstance to starve. So this has to be real. So let's rely on this vision. Let's try it out. And I just relaxed, and I didn't go looking for work, none of that stuff. And then I just imagined myself having money, and I was able to just live out my life. 3 days in, I got a feeling to call my mom, and I abandoned my parents, my family as well too. When I abandoned everything, I abandoned my family.
Mm.
And so calling my mom felt out of place, and I didn't know why. And so I thought, okay, I'll just listen to this vision that came to me. And when I call her, she's concerned, and I have to, console her that I'm okay. And why did I do this? I'm doing it for a spiritual adventure, Mom. You have to, it's okay. I'm safe. And then she's like, okay, well, you have money coming towards you. You have a tax return, and there's $2,000. And so I was, I'm living out of my car with just,
Like, woo!
yeah, exactly. That lasted me months. $2,000, and back in the day,
yeah,
$2,000
manifestation.
yeah, you got it. So it's stuff like that helped. And the other twist that ended up being a part of my journey was what's called willing workers on organic farms, where once the car, by the first year the car was done, and I started working on farms basically, and there's a program you could do to do that.
Right.
And so it's trade for room and board is what it was. Yeah.
It's a good thing you're out in Vancouver, because living in your car in Ontario, you would have been found dead, frozen in your car. Yeah.
Well, that's part of the adventure, is that I did go across Canada.
Oh,
And
boy.
and actually that first year when I was lost, out of the feeling of being lost, I travel across Canada, and it gets out of control because the winter's coming and I don't have any place to live. And
Well,
that's
Saskatchewan and Manitoba are like -40.
yeah.
winter.
Well,
Yeah.
I was in Newfoundland actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
boy.
so,
That's cold
yeah,
right there.
yeah, it was
Wow.
it was fun, but totally insane. And
Yeah.
yeah, living on the edge is what that was. So yeah, but
Wow.
magic
You were
magic
just
happened.
guided to move to Newfoundland, or guided to go across country?
Yeah, that was just, there wasn't, there was this feeling of do what you want. There was this, here's
Okay.
this experience.
Freedom.
Yeah, freedom, and figure yourself out and figure out what to do with what happened to you. This kind of
Yeah.
crazy spiritual awakening. And I wasn't really guided per se. That would have been way better to have been feeling visions and go see that person and talk to that person. And it just had a sense of a lot more freedom. And so at the time I didn't know what to do with myself. And I just kind of thought, okay, I'm going to put myself extremely on the edge and go away from anything I knew and drive across Canada, the country. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in there,
Yeah.
are you, I mean, obviously you're reaching at some point, you get to that point where it's like you reach this sense of enlightenment, awareness, evolution, you are obviously figuring it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So at what point do you think, okay, like I feel like I'm going solo here. You haven't had, many visitations from these guys, from the
Mhm.
sounds of it, because you're still trying to discover, where you're going with this. You're trying to find yourself. At what point do you sit back and say, okay, tired of living in the car, it's time now to go to the next level?
Right. Yeah.
Right. How do I get out of this? Is kind of what you're
Yes.
asking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so by the end, I had a degree of confidence about what I was doing, and I felt very. I was able to, I would end up in a city, and I would use my intuition. Is that mountain safe? I'm going to climb up there and sleep on the edge.
Right.
I don't believe it's going to rain. I would use my intuition about everything. Just how's it feel?
Right.
Okay, it's not going to rain. I'm going to put myself here, and so I was on the edge quite a bit by the end, and I literally run into a beautiful woman in a hostel, and
There you go.
the day before, I'm hearing a voice and like angel. I really felt it was an angel. You're gonna kiss. It was basically as if it really felt like an angel was sitting in my ear. You're gonna meet a woman. You're gonna meet a woman. You're gonna kiss a woman. You're gonna meet a woman. Kind of was like repeating to me, and I didn't really understand it. And then lo and behold, the very next day is I meet this beautiful woman in the hostel. Now, if you recall, the alien in the Seventh Contact event implanted this idea of having like no sexual activity. Right?
Yeah.
And so I was ingrained with this kind of like celibate idea. And it happened that the whole awareness that I gained was in part because I had made that choice, because it actually, what she had done with me in the contact event came out and bled out in my real life. I actually made the choice to be celibate and
Right.
to not have sexual activity, and it seemed to create what happened to me. So I always had that in my head. And so whereas in the case when there's like a woman like this, I'm like, what? Well, I felt this very spiritual thing, which messages, but there's no way I would get together with someone. Plus, this was my life. Traveling was my life. I didn't understand it.
And how many years in are you in at this point of being
Two and a
alone?
half. Two and a
Wow,
half.
that's
Yeah, so I'm 20.
substantial. Yeah.
Yeah, so by this point, I'm adapted to everything in my life, and I don't even imagine. I was fully convinced this was my life because
Right.
of the circumstances that made it leave. I
Mhm.
thought, oh, I would never going. That was why it was actually so traumatizing. I thought this was it for the rest of my life. I didn't
Right.
quite imagine I was getting out of it, and
Right.
and yeah, it's safe to say very quickly we were led to be alone. We saw a UFO the very night we met, and that was really weird and was part of our thing. And for me, these were the objects I was already seeing while traveling. So I thought, oh, well, this is a weird message, and I thought it was connected to the voices I was hearing. That I'm seeing this weird object with this woman. We're connecting, and then I actually just felt unity with her. I couldn't there was a depth with her that I didn't have with anybody else, and it happened within the first day. And then I followed the voice that told me to kiss her,
Right.
and it really it is more complicated than that. I still resisted her quite a bit.
Right.
And we went to a
But it's
rainbow
the
gathering.
game changer, essentially.
Yeah, it's the thing that makes me
Yeah.
realize, okay, this was real. I'm also supposed to. I needed the universe to be telling me you're supposed to be with her.
Right.
That's what, and there was a bit of a fight in me about that, and then I
Right.
succumbed
Well,
to it.
because at some point, do you question the contract versus your instinct and human nature? And
Always,
yeah,
always,
Yeah.
always. So, okay, I wasn't aware of the contact events, but
Yeah.
I had it's in the book. It's always it's in the journals. It's in everything. I couldn't stop. I always knew I couldn't put my I couldn't like ground myself anywhere. That's probably the way to frame it. I wasn't supposed to ground myself anywhere. And of course my instinct is to stop traveling. And also what's happening is that this is my prime years, my 20s. I'm supposed to be in education. I'm supposed to be educating myself. I'm smart. Why am I not part of society? Why am I not doing things like that? So I had my own battles going on, and my heart, literally my heart, was the only one saying, you cannot. You have to keep being on the edge. Like, you have to keep doing this. And there was no answer. It didn't have a logical answer. It had no logical answer what was in my heart.
Yeah, because I mean, you got to live life. I mean,
You
really
got to live a
life.
life.
You have to be a participant in your own life. You can't just exist.
Yeah, you got it. 100%.
Right.
And then, but you know, after all that pushing and pushing and pushing, all of a sudden you have this magical thing going on with this woman.
Right.
And then you start saying, oh, and first I didn't believe it.
Did you think it was a test?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, exactly. You're like, no,
being tested.
Exactly, I'm being tested.
Did you check to make sure she was human?
There's that too. Yeah, you got
Right.
it. Yeah, 100%. You got it.
Right.
It's it put all those games were in my head. Even I had a I remember so she was from Toronto, and I was traveling boy. So but we met in BC, so she was backpacking because she had finished her master's and was celebrating. And so she leaves, and so it becomes this heart-wrenching moment. I finally submit. I connect. I say, okay, I like this woman. This seems right. And then she has to leave, and we're separated for 3 months. And then I'm still doubting it. And I remember being at this like, you know, festival, and there was this intuitive. She said, I would channel your higher self for you, and you know, you give her like a donation. So I thought, okay, I'll check this out. And I get down and I say, you know, there's this woman, and I'm still questioning. So I'm asking this woman, this intuitive, what the answer will be, and she literally says, stop focusing on this. And she gets mad, like as if my own higher self knew and said, stop questioning this. You know, you're meant to be with this woman. Yeah, go with it. And my brain is the one saying, no, you know, I can't because I've been traveling for
the contract.
Exactly. It's not.
So you've got this running in the back of your mind the whole time that you're trying to actually live your life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, it sounds to me like you've given them enough time. I mean, you know, do your own thing. Okay, here, we'll put this up since we're on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Catherine, hi, Kat. Jeff, but was there a time limit in your agreement to be celibate and later tell you will meet a woman?
Yeah, beautiful. I really wish it was all that clear. Yeah, none of it was clear to me like that. They gave me the commands, and then you're literally have to figure it all out for yourself. Yeah. And none of that clarity.
See, that sucks. I mean, seriously.
I agreed.
I'm a big believer in, you know, say, you know, mean what you say, what you mean what you say, follow through. Like, just freaking put it out there.
Yeah.
And you know, take the guesswork out of it, because you could have been walking around in limbo for a decade, you know. There's got to be some boundaries in there, stipulations. And,
boundaries. Yeah, those are funny words.
I mean? Fun.
Yeah. No, there was. Yeah, it's all figured all out for yourself. Yeah, that's what it was.
Oh man. So okay, you finally, you know, you connect with this beautiful woman. You're like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to start living my life, and you know, and what happens from there? Like, did at any point did you have some kind of another visitation or download or telepathic message, anything that says this is okay? Or
the synchronicities were consistent. Actually, I kept having weird phenomenon actually occur. So, and it was all message related. So, you know, I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel most phenomenon is always message related. It's saying something about something, whether it's internal, and typically for me it is internal. It's I feel these thoughts and feelings, and then the phenomena is happening around me around that those feelings, and it feels like it's a communication of some kind. And
it's
so,
like being an empath.
Sure, sure, you got it. So an example of that was, a part of the love affair with this beautiful woman is that she had a guru. So she was the one who brought me to this guru, and I was very intrigued because I had some synchronicities before I met her about following a guru. I actually
maybe she was someone who was like you with a contract, and maybe you were supposed to connect. And
I think that soul contract is the one between ourselves. Yeah. And you're right. And she was the one. We are soulmates. All these years later, I know that for a fact, but so it is a magical moment for both of us that this occurred.
Right.
And so an example of some things that were definitely, you know, messages for me. So she leaves. We're 3 months apart, and there's a farm. I'm staying at a farm, and it's in Winlaw, actually, in the Kootenay Mountains in BC here, and the fellow was a follower of a guru in India. So there's a weird synchronicity, and I got to talk to him about this beautiful woman I met who follows a guru. He gave me a book, Ram Dass's "Be Here Now," and he said, this feels like this belongs to you. And then that night, I end up having a very weird event. I go out on the farm, and very typical, I walk by myself in the middle of the night in the forest. I love it. And it had this weird, it was a clear cut, so I could see down into the valley, and literally above me, I would say no more than, I can't remember what I recall, 25 feet or something like that, not too high above me, a stream of cloud that couldn't have been any more bigger than, 10 feet wide is flying over top of my head. And it's like a snake going down the mountain, and I can see it going down the valley, and then it's coming back up the other side and going up the mountain. And I do not know what I'm looking at. And it's basically just this odd phenomenon. And I can't figure it out. It's some weird magic. I don't understand it. I toss it up as kind of being magical. Years later, I try to research it once the internet is in my hands. And there's some versions of this, but nothing with consistent strength. And there's no wind in the environment. So something was controlling it. It just seemed so magical. And for me, it all had this kind of, message, if you will, that this was right. Everything that was flowing was real. It was true. Follow it, that kind of thing. So yeah. And then when I actually followed her all the way to Toronto, I got a job right away, and I found a house right away. So the falling back into society happened like that. And so it told me also that was meant to be. So that was it. My life in Toronto had now started, and that was the end of my traveling years.
It was a good thing you left.
And with all of this, did you ever long again to just have another encounter or contact with?
So at that point, again, the memories were obscured, but I had gotten traumatized. And I actually had said this, by this period, I was actually kind of pushing them away in my heart, not knowing it was them. And so there was a conflict in me, and it bled out in my life, and I was disturbed by how it all unfolded. And those privately who knew me knew about that. That's just really. Oh, and a strange little synchronicity was I wrote to my guru about that. I wrote the whole thing out. About how I left traveling, the weirdness about it. What was this? Do you know, Guruji, what this was? And so I give him a whole letter. Right. And it's really interesting. All these years later, I found someone who said, the Guru doesn't answer you directly. He answers you kind of indirectly sometimes through other disciples. Well, oddly enough, just maybe months later or something, one of his disciples calls me up and said, I had a really vivid dream. You were abducted by aliens. Do you think you were abducted by aliens? It's like,
no.
Exactly. No. But I also thought, well, he must be tuning in to the weirdness about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Thing, but there's no way I was abducted. And I also only knew missing time. I didn't know anything else. I just knew that missing time was a thing. And I didn't think I had missing time. So I was like, no, there's nothing like that occurring. Also, you think you should feel like you've been abducted. You think
I think it's a sense of loss, and a sense of like, I don't belong here. Something's missing. Like there's this void, Yeah. And it's just like, you're missing something or someone. You know how you feel when you really miss somebody? But the feeling is like that. Just like, but you don't know. You're just like, I don't belong in this place or time. I feel like I'm missing somebody. There's somebody in my life that's not here. Like a lot of people will attribute it to past lives, even like leaving somebody behind, because we don't all come back and reincarnate at the same time, right? Like sometimes it's like, you make your soul pact and you have your soul circle, things of that nature. But I just find that a lot of contactees say the same thing, because they just feel that maybe they come from the stars, or that they miss their star family.
Right. What's so interesting is that that's all wrapped up in the consciousness event. So that and it's because when all the memories came out, I could finally understand all my feelings.
Right.
And I subconsciously knew, I guess this other me who was having the contact, who was aware of it, knew what had happened was significant and real. And so it was all created by alien contact. So I had a part of me that desperately wanted to know, and the aliens basically sealed that up. And so I'm just left incomplete. You're right. It's an awful feeling, actually. It really is. And I have some people who are like, oh, you know, it's amazing you saw the afterlife on an alien spacecraft, and that's just so powerful. And I'm like, yeah, but there was a cost. And the cost is you are left with this disassociation. You're kind of feeling like you're incomplete, and you
And
can't,
you don't belong.
and you can't resolve it. There's absolutely
Yes.
no way to resolve it until you get the memories out and you can finally heal from all that.
Right. Right.
And it's a weird discordance that is it's undescribable to people who haven't had that type of
Right.
experience. Yeah.
And you end up, of course, you marry this beautiful lady.
Yeah. So there was a benefit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you're living your life, things are normal, and you're having, you know, all of these synchronicities and paranormal events, right? Because
Yeah.
we talked
Some
about this,
paranormal
how the two are very tied together
Yeah.
and on different levels.
Yeah.
When all this is happening, how is she handling it? And then you just, you know, all these memories come forward, or you decide, you know, I don't know if you did regression or how they came through, but
Oh yeah.
how does she fit in? How does she feel about all of this?
So, okay, well, what's really interesting is that it's, I don't want to, okay, I'll have to be conscious here, but
Of course.
the bottom line is that she has her own set of experiences, but she won't frame it this way.
Okay.
So and also here's the thing: the bottom line is when all the memories are open, there's disturbing things in it, right?
Right.
And some people don't want that, and I have to be respectful of that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and so, you know, it becomes a test of love, and love never faileth. That's the bottom line. But yeah, it definitely causes strain, and there were periods where there was strain. But you know, it's very fascinating. She has her own set of experiences, and she could definitely talk about them. But everything gets framed as the gurus. It's the gurus. You know, the gurus did this, or I saw an orb, and it was, you know, I felt like it was the gurus, and it's great. And I just, you know, that's it. And maybe it is. How am I supposed to see her and say?
She sees it more spiritually.
Right.
Yeah, she sees it in a different way, but she's also seen some very wacky stuff. And some of the sightings are with her. So I'm filming one of my favorite videos, and she's in the background, and she's saying, "But how do you really know those are UFOs?" And she's yelling. So the raw video is like online, and she's the one yelling in the background. It's very funny, actually. Yeah. So but some of the sightings are with her. It's actually really kind of comical, and but everything gets framed in a very different way. And who might argue, right?
That's okay.
Well, maybe
it could be what keeps you both balanced.
Yeah, and you know, the bottom line is, who might argue? Maybe the gurus also do manifest as orbs. I can't say they do or don't these things.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, the planet and the universe, everything. It's all pretty incredible, and you know, it's not up to us to necessarily question it all. Sometimes we're just supposed to have the experience, share in the experience, and educate others in the experience.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. You know, the mystery, this is part of it that is very obvious to me now, after all these years of kind of, you know, having this experience, is the phenomenon is designed to push your mind. It is like, why a crop circle, right? And so the crop circle could easily have been a human. So you're left with having to say, I have to either believe or I sit there and toss off. And all the sightings I have, and every single sighting I see other people have, you don't have a definitive sighting. You have something that kind of sits in the mind in a weird way, where you can say that kind of looked like a balloon. I can't quite tell what that is. And yet it behaves in a way that's so irregular. But or light orbs even, right? Like, it gets so confusing sometimes. And sometimes the phenomenon seems to replicate objects that we might be slightly familiar with, and then distort them a little bit, so the person will just kind of, you know, not want to believe it. And you're always left in that middle ground, having to either believe or toss it off like it was nothing.
Yeah, it's different for everyone. You had made mention of something about other people having seen when you, I find it interesting how you say, like, my gray or my being.
Oh, yeah.
But in paranormal form, can you explain that paranormal form?
Of my entity? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. She is in my life as a present paranormal entity. And so what's consistent with that is angel hair. So the most insane sightings I've had, not even sightings, interactions I've had, is it was in the early days. So she was really, she, I guess, maybe both, a whole bunch of them, I don't know. But it really did feel like it was her, and I was able to communicate directly and say, it's you, I know it's you.
You felt a
And
feminine energy.
in the
Yeah.
after effects, you would, like in the telepathy afterwards, there would be the feeling of what that exchange. Either was a sighting, like a craft or an orb sighting, or a paranormal event. Yeah, there was the familiar presence. I would actually better say it with that I'm aware of. That is the elder. That is.
Yeah.
She would call herself my dolphin twin, and so in some of the cases, I had 2 cases of angel hair that was so like defying gravity, defying physics. So just literally, I'm looking at my window and there's this blob floating 5 feet from the window. So it's super thick. It's visceral, super visceral plasma, I guess, also.
Yeah.
And it's floating upwards and also downwards. So it's splitting up. And so it's just defying gravity in this kind of weird liquid way. And it flies past the window. And then I can have that connection, be like, what was that? And then it's her, and she's confirming it's her. And then there was this other time where I'm hanging off the balcony, and she's playing as orbs. I'll be able to see her. And then I actually say, I just love when you show yourself to me. So I'm having this playful interaction with her. And this insane angel hair, it just bursts from below and comes out and spreads out up into the sky. So it's no more than 10 feet away from me, and it's just this very thick, visceral, strandy mucus, almost white mucusy stuff, and it spreads out to the point where it starts thinning out, and then it just dissipates in the sky. And I actually was telling Ian Howling about this. There's someone who he's filming. Dr. Gary Nolan put some investment money into a guy in South Africa who is using a drone to film what he's calling exobiospheric organisms. So organisms in the atmosphere that appear to be kind of like visceral or jelly-like. And I actually was saying, Ian, that's what I see. I see this type of material with the elder. So this is real. I just thought I was seeing, this was this was my experience. I wasn't really having a way of defining it. And so this guy starts filming the kind of mucusy material that's just kind of very jelly-like in the atmosphere that will appear and disappear.
And there's a lot of sightings of that. People have actually captured that on camera.
Yeah.
Like it's like huge jellyfish just floating around in the sky.
Yeah, you got it.
Same
and can
idea.
just strand out and do weird things and then disappear. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I had no knowledge, right? These are all private experiences. I can't film them because they happen too fast. That means they don't want it to be filmed.
Right.
And so I just have this private experience. And then only now, and I've been public about it, I've been talking about it on YouTube videos, and then only now have I been able to find corroboration. Yeah, that whatever entity, whatever dimensions they're operating in, this is part of its manifestation. Yeah.
Right. We're going to take a real quick station and sponsor ID time.
Already?
And we're there, I know. So where did the time go?
Oh my
Speaking of time.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that was quick. Let me clear my throat. You are right. No, just clear my throat. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 107.7 FM, as well as the Gulf Coast on 105.3 FM. We are live on the Roku channel and archived as well. Our special guest tonight is Jeff Selver. He is discussing his life experience and his book, The Rising and the Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened City Here on Earth. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss a word. Anyways, if you've missed this and you're just tuning in, don't worry, because you can stream our archives on any platform that you normally use. Search United Public Radio and then The Outer Realm to find us. Remember to click like and subscribe. Smash it, click it, share it, please, so you never miss an episode. The big part right now, the gratitude part and the love, we're going to start with Folgers Coffee. Thank you for your continued support in sponsoring our show. We absolutely adore you, and we hope that there are many, many more years with you guys. Thank you so much. Our fabulous banner and promo media is courtesy of Steve McGinnis, horror illustrator. He is a fabulous artist. He also creates commission pieces, and you can find him on Facebook. Thank you, Steve. Our intro and outro is courtesy of Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, award-winning composer, vocalist, and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp. Stream on any platform. Find Dr. Snick on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you, Justin. And just a little, I say this every week, but we never know. We have new audience members every week, people listening for the first time. You can also find his music when you're creating your stories on Facebook and Instagram. Lastly, kindly give us a like, smash it, subscribe, and share with your friends and family.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are back. Looks like we're having a little bit of a confusion in the chat room. Jeff's wife is human. He's talking about.
Oh my!
Right, yes. Paranormal entity, wife, separate things. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Just to be clear before we move on. So,
oh my!
I know.
That I did not read. Oh, I could see where that happened.
Right. Yeah. They're both
my
females,
entity. Yes.
So, getting back to the paranormal realm, do you feel that they share the same realm? Because I mean, I can tell you that when we work, we know that. I mean, for 20 years, at least half the people I've worked with in the paranormal field have had extraterrestrial experiences,
right?
And we're using the same portals. And that seems to be something that, we're still seeing in the work that we do.
Yeah.
So do you feel that they're one of the same, or maybe we're misinterpreting?
No, I think the realm of the paranormal is a physics. I think that's the physics part of it. That there's a thinner realm that naturally just sits over top of that. The dead body or the ethereal body of the dead person can occupy, and then there's a physics that operates there. And the entities, yes, they can utilize that physics as well too, and operate in that space as well too. What's her name? Leslie Keane, right? She's kind of come forward and said, from her research now, it looks like the UFOs and these objects are associated with the realm, the ghost realm, the supernatural realm. So that has 100% been my experience, that this is a dimensional space that is, just part of a natural physics that sits on top of the earth. And then the entities can utilize it and have some kind of mastery over it as well too. I think just the idea that they're able to materialize mucus like that is just very fascinating. And I think that's what we're going to end up learning. We have to create a new physics for the physics of the paranormal and how this whole realm operates. And
which would fall the same thing would be for cryptids or crypto-terrestrial sort of beings.
Actually, I kind of say, if you notice and pay attention to all the phenomenon, including cryptoids and including animals, humans are the only odd ones out. We are the only ones, right? And there seems to be kind of this, even some of the human. So when I was at a contact in the desert, and they did a CE5 there, and I've got the good experience with the Greys. Yeah, there were definitely some hard experiences there, but overall, I think I like my experience with them, and so they were like channeling in the CE5 all the others and all the other species, Octurians and Pleiadians, and it was all very beautiful. And I was like, oh, they missed out on the Greys. And that's fine, but we had a sighting, and it didn't look like my entities, and I thought that was I had to really sit back and think about it, but it had the same physics as my entities.
Okay, so what was the entities like that different? How did they differ from you?
Yeah, so I'd never seen this in my life, and it was basically, again, remember I said earlier, you have to sit on the fence about these things. It looked like birds. But nothing was flapping. They flew incredibly fast. There was the dead wind. There are no pure white birds with these weird shapes or designs on them. They were moving up and down at incredibly fast speeds, and it went over our heads no more than 30 feet. And everyone got up and cheered because it seemed very much in response to our CE5. It happened twice as well. And everyone can confirm those. We've never seen those birds in the environment. So it's just a very weird thing, but you're left with saying, it kind of was bird-like. So you have to, so that you're sitting on the fence all the time. You're saying, well, maybe it was birds. And then you have to sit there and believe, right? You have to kind of stop using the logical mind and feel with your consciousness. And you could feel that something was there that night. And also had the other physics too, was it was just far away in visual reference to confuse your mind. So you couldn't quite figure out what you were looking at. Number three, it was so fast no one could take a picture. So it really was just in and out, and it shocked everyone, the speed of it. And so my entities do the exact same thing. It felt that's like the paranormal realm, the way they can utilize. Yeah, it can utilize the environment in a very weird way. And I felt like that was, possibly these other entities, whatever, Octorians or Pleiadians, I don't really know. But the idea that they utilize the environment in this very similar way that I'm familiar with my entities. And I've heard of this before too, that, people have the humanoid experiences, but they're still displaying what you'd be considered paranormal physics. They might float, right? They might put projections in the mind of the human. They might still do something that displays but again, it just comes back to humans are the odd ones out here. And whales apparently have extra huge, intelligences, and we can't figure out what they're doing unless maybe they're also living in these other dimensions and spaces, because what are they doing with that intellect? And then the cryptoids definitely display paranormal abilities. It sounds to me like practically every
for
cryptoid.
Sure. Bigfoot with orbs, and you see crafts. And
totally,
I completely agree with you. They're completely intertwined, right down to sleep paralysis. You have your scientific version, you have your paranormal version, you have your extraterrestrial version, you have dimensionally speaking, same thing. People who have claimed to have had demonic or malevolent experience smells and behaviors and popping and scratching sounds, 3 scratches. The same thing happens with people who have said, well, I've been abducted, I can smell sulfur, I had 3 scratch marks, and blah, 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 blah. They're so intertwined, it's not even funny.
Yeah, agreed. I totally 100% agree with you. And it says to me that is what this is. We're the odd ones out. And when it comes to biology and humans, I think that's part of the game. I think that we were designed to be odd out and to have a certain type of soul experience on this planet.
That we know of. Because there can be other humans on other planets that we don't know about.
Oh.
Well, we can apparently reincarnate on many different worlds.
Yeah.
That I don't doubt either. Yeah, I agree with that totally.
I don't know. I think it's all very, very fascinating. I think Bigfoot is the one that is, because he seems to be more sought after. Like there's so many groups, for example, that encounter him or go looking for him or her, and they will see orbs. They'll see shadow figures. They'll see, sometimes they'll see crafts. Around them. So I think that's a perfect example of a cryptoid who is within all of these realms.
Yeah, you got it. And so part of my own investigations into my own contact events, that they all happened out in nature. So I did a presentation for a UFO group here where I basically scrubbed the UFO BC database for all the sightings in the same geography, in the same location. And then I went and looked at all the hauntings, if you could find hauntings. And then I went and looked at all the cryptoids, and they all crossed over into the same geographies. So you have, I'm now convinced that there's, electromagnetic fields are at play here, maybe vortexes, if you will. We do know
100%.
that, the science of
there's
vortexes
power spots all over the world.
Yeah, you got it. And they seem to congregate in these weird areas, and then you're having crossovers within them, and it seems to me they all might be aware of each other while we are the ones who aren't aware of them.
I think it's because we're sleepwalking is probably the best way I like to put it. I believe we all come here with these. That's why children are so intuitive and see so much. They're just so aware. And life has a way of dumbing us down, whether it's conditioning, whether it's stuff in the food, whether we just get so busy that we start concentrating so much on our 5 physical senses because we live in a physical place, we're in a physical form, that everything else goes to the wayside. But when we start to wake up and this awareness starts coming in, and often, like in your experiences with help from, beings, star people, extraterrestrials, dimensional beings, when they wake us up, all of a sudden we start seeing within the realm we're really not
Yes.
alone and we're surrounded.
Yes. I know so many, I can't speak for the other races, but so many great alien contactees who end up with having mediumship abilities. So, and that happened to me. I have a story on my website, how I helped a ghost transition to the afterlife. And
Right.
it was new to me to have that experience. And it came out of kind of making sense of my memories and then recognizing that I'd had some of this ability after that consciousness event. I didn't have any of this stuff as a child. I was not. So I kind of grew into it after having that consciousness event in my 20s, and
Right.
only to understand that this was all kind of big picture, that the mediumship stuff was tied to it. And then I kind of just got better at it. And that moment helped me do that. But
Right.
the only way that can be happening isn't because of something they're doing in the brain. It's because of their environment. So they're utilizing on craft or with telepathy.
Frequency,
Yeah,
vibration.
that realm, that ghost realm. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
There, and it is a frequency. I'm convinced of that. I agree with that. And we know paranormal's frequency, right? Ghost hunters use electromagnetic fields to
For
identify
sure.
things, right?
Yeah.
So 100% it is frequency, and I think they utilized some version of that on the craft, and then that makes the contactees end up having mediumship abilities afterwards.
Yeah. No, exactly. I'm just putting up your website because people are inquiring.
Oh, yeah.
So there we go. Just give it a click, guys. Give it a click. Copy, paste, whatever works. There it is.
That's an easy one to remember.
It
Yeah.
is just my name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the best way to go.
You
Mine's my
can't say
name
we
too.
don't make it convenient, but all the
Yeah.
links are also, you're welcome. All the links are also in the show description. So wherever you see it, you come in and you'll find everything there, right
Yeah.
down to where to get the books and the social media. You'll find all kinds of every way to find Jeff possible. So where are you going with everything now? Like where are you at now with everything?
I'm still processing it.
Right. Yeah, because you wrote the
So
book. So obviously this is
yeah,
your memoirs and your experiences.
yeah, and it's a lot of this is we're jumping into this. We're starting to get people. I got Ross Coulthart now saying things like consciousness tech, and that's what this was. The aliens were using consciousness tech on me, and the weirdness is that it gets embedded in you, or you get I guess it's like a download, so you could I guess you can access it, but I can recall it maybe, and I can go back into some of that depth. It's
Or you
really,
find yourself doing things and all of a sudden you don't know why you're doing it or looking for information. Like you just know
there
things,
was a
but you don't
period where
know
that
how
happened.
you know it, right?
Yeah, was a period where that was happening.
Yeah.
What's
That
happening
happens
now
with
is
mediumship too, though. That's a cross right there.
right, interesting, right. Yeah, I'm going through my memory still. I'm still just. And also there was a lot of different sensations. What I did was I got the memories out. I recorded all the details, and then I didn't understand some of the stuff myself. So I just kind of was logging it all, documenting it all, if you will.
So
trying
did
to make
these
sense
just start coming to you, Jeff, or did you go through hypnosis?
the flash. So it all starts. So I was trying to make sense of that 20-year-old content, that 20-year-old consciousness event.
Yes.
So I was years later, by the time I'm late in the 30s, I'm saying to myself, what was that? Why did that happen to me? I don't understand it. I thought I'd maybe make sense of it eventually at some point in my life. And then I started to not make sense. It was bugging me, actually. It started to bug me. And I started to trying to understand what that was. Like, why did it happen to me? And I was doing research and coming up with nothing. And I kept thinking, I just didn't know how to dig it up. I didn't really know what to do with it. And I kept trying to change my life at the same time. So I was uncentered. I was in a state of trying to figure myself out. And it did. I was not going down. I was not an aliens and UFO guy. I did not touch this stuff at all.
Right.
I was a banker at the time, and I have an MBA and all that other fun stuff. And then I watched Jeremy Corbell's documentary on Bob Lazar, and that was the first time I took this very kooky subject and made me think, oh, maybe there's something legitimate here. And it had me wanting to go back into aliens and UFOs that I was into as a kind of teenager and as a kid. And I found a documentary online. Sorry, not a documentary, but like a YouTube channel that had orbs, people's videos of orbs and stuff. And what ended up happening was it triggered, well, those ones that I saw traveling came back. So a weird thing had happened. Like a moment immediately when that happened, it's making me question everything, because so here I am seeing these orbs on the YouTube channel, and now the ones that I saw when I was traveling, when I had that weird period of my life, are coming back exactly as they were when I was traveling, confirming for me right away that they were connected. And I didn't understand that at all. And I'd been living in high rises and watching the sky for over 15 years at that point. And, you know, I was living in penthouses in several places. So I never even saw these objects. And then all of a sudden, when I'm looking into UFOs, I see them again. That had me really freaked out, actually. I didn't quite get that connection, what the hell that was all about. And the whole process is in my book, how it all gets unraveled. The last chapter it is. And I'll just make it safe to say that I started to receive communication from it. And it basically was pointing at a weird memory in my head. And I didn't know about screen memories, not quite like that. And then basically it was pointing at something in my memory of as a teenager, when I was living where I was living at the time as a teenager, which is close by to where I live now. So I was able to go there, and I felt that I had to go check something out that was in my head. And when I went back to this location, I could feel for the first time ever, when I kind of draw up that memory, this odd memory of seeing an owl that I knew I didn't see in the back of my teenage childhood home.
That seems to be a common one.
Yeah, the owl. I know.
Yeah.
It was really weird for me, and I could feel it. I could feel the displacement of. There's one version of my life that went out the way I thought it did, and then there was an event happened that I wasn't aware of. I could feel something had actually lured me out, and I could feel that memory was associated with this feeling of luring, a friendly luring. Something was friendly and luring me out, and it was at nighttime, and I'd gone into the forest. And at the time, I didn't have any other knowing about what that was, but it freaked me out, and I knew it was associated with these objects I'd seen in the sky. And I went into panic, but also trying to make sense of things. And it was a process over months, but I didn't want to look at it, because what I assumed was that I was going to find that this was alien contact, like it was looking like I was concerned it was becoming. I was concerned it was all the biological stuff that I'd heard about, all the that it would be menacing and I couldn't even imagine I had a relationship that I was actually comfortable. That whole part was, I couldn't even get there yet. So I was in this kind of state of resisting it. And there's a process here. It's all in the book, but the bottom line is eventually I start having flashbacks. So, and the flashbacks contain my childhood memories and me being the teenager and the emotional moments of being a teenager and being on crafts and seeing these seeing specifically an entity, as one entity, and it kind of unravels from there. So it's flashbacks. Every single one of the contact events are flashbacks, and then I did use hypnotic regression to make sense of certain things, and it's all in the book how I proved to myself how effective it was, because a lot of them happened out in nature, and then I ended up having memories about the locations that my 20 years later mind forgot. And so the hypnotic regression showed me, oh, there were power lines under this hiking trail. How the hell would I remember that? But the hypnotic regression retained it. And I went out and go there, and it turns out, yeah, you're right. And when I was with friends, we put it all together, how much it would make sense to actually have an alien contact event right there. And plus I could feel it when I go into the locations that the contact events happened, and I could feel they happened there. It's just an insane thing. And they would all contain the flashbacks, and so I just put basically with regression and a couple other methods I used, not just regression, because a lot of somatic memories were there too. I could feel some of the visceral experiences. And it's because something biological had occurred as well too, and what they did with me.
Mhm.
And that's that. And I pieced it together, and it took time to piece together.
Mhm.
And just all I cared about was trying to make sense of what the hell had happened to me, because it was so personal and it had traumatized me, and I didn't understand it, and I knew it was significant, but I didn't understand, like, what the hell.
Right.
And so the
Yeah,
idea
trauma
that,
will do that.
Right.
yeah, you got it. You got it. That was
Yeah.
it. I cared about was trying to make sense of it. So
Yeah, when you're
Right.
traumatized, you remember bits and pieces, and you can remember stuff years later. I've had multiple NDEs, and sometimes I'll say to Michelle, I can't believe, but this just flashed and this just happened. And it's like when they ask me the story, I remember the most traumatizing parts of it. But if I'm
right.
comfortable, like being with my bestie here and talking about it, I'm more comfortable to remember. So that could be part of what you're experiencing too, like your comfort levels of who's hearing you
Right. At the
tell this
time,
story. Yeah.
yeah, at the time, yeah, I would agree with that, because I
Yeah.
actually, very early in, I was hypersensitive to who was, you know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm a grounded business guy. I was not interested in talking this way,
It's
and
Mhm.
scary.
yeah, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden you have to start talking this way,
Right.
and
Yeah.
also I was really confused. Like, shouldn't someone be, interested in this? Shouldn't there? All you're thinking is like, isn't there an institution that wants to know about this, or a government, or a police, or someone, and no one is interested in learning about it. And
Yeah.
so that's what ends up creating the book. Is that once I realized the story came together as a whole, it started making sense for people. But
Right.
people were kind of even questioning, hey, why are you having a 16-year-old contact event? And then why the next one? And it's not making sense until you understand that they had an agreement. They had a whole thing going on in their heads, and that they wanted to do with me. And then all of a sudden the story kind of makes sense. And
Mhm.
Right. Right.
yeah,
It sounds like it's been one heck of a journey, and I'm so happy that you came here and shared
yeah,
it with
thank you.
everybody. I know people have been having a good time, and we've got loads of audio listeners who rely, of course, on the audio, which is why I'm going to put this up, and you can please tell us about the book and
Yeah.
where they can find it, the website, the whole 9 yards. So promote, promote, promote. What have you got coming up, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, you
So
got it.
pretty.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's just intuition that made that. It's my drawing. And
Beautiful.
yeah,
I
and
love book covers. And I say this
yeah,
every time I see a book. I love book covers because if they draw you in, if it draws me in, I'm gonna buy it. That's
yeah,
just me. I like books too. Like I collect them. So that's
beautiful.
very pretty. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, you got it. Well, I'll send you a copy.
No,
Um,
it's okay. I
yeah.
would support you and buy one.
No, okay, well. So the book is The Rising and the Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened City on Earth. It's 26 contact events with gray aliens. It's the entire everything we've been talking about here. It's all in the book. And it's from contact event number 1 to contact event number 26. And
Wow.
then I add in so yeah, I made an agreement with gray aliens to discover my soul. It sounds bonkers.
But it's
Yet,
there.
what happens when it's real, right? So that's what this is. It's a story where I made that agreement, and the rising is basically, she says in the 7th contact event, right before she initiates it, she says, "Now it's time. It's your time to rise." So I took that word. I kind of used it as the rising, and I kind of framed the consciousness event and called it a rising. And
Right.
and then after that, I'm used for biology. So I get all the bad stuff like everybody else. It
Right.
sucked, and
Right.
but I also process it through what I'd already had experience with them, and I think that helps contribute to learning about it and how
Mhm.
to handle it as a human. And
Mm.
then, but in the process, it's an exchange, and they're
Right.
telling me their plans, and I'd like to think that, and I have pretty good cooperation that this is. I have some new videos on my website that I think this is it. This is what we're looking at. Aliens are putting themselves on the planet, and hybrids. And if I believe 100% there already are hybrids on the planet. I agree with that,
I
and varying
agree.
versions of races. I agree with that too. But this is something else. This is them and their world coming down to planet Earth. And so that's what they were basically telling me. And then they wanted me, and you know, I'm in touch with several contactees who write books and are told to, by the aliens, write their story into a book.
Right.
And in the 25th contact event, that's what this is. She's telling me, put your story into a book. Let the world know, your people know, basically, that we're coming and there will be a new city. And so the Enlightened City is my words, because of the experiences I have with them. I understand the thing we call enlightenment is just the beginning of what these guys are all about. This is next level stuff that humans don't even have frame of references for. And so the enlightenment is that, you have to maybe want to evolve your consciousness. I don't think, I always say this to make people be clear. I know the aliens these guys are, they're benevolent. They can, the tough love is definitely there, but they are loving entities, actually. And you don't have to be enlightened, but you have to at least want to evolve your consciousness or believe in that, move in that direction in your life, for this city. And I'm pretty certain that opens up the human to a whole plethora of dimensional experiences that we haven't even begin to comprehend yet.
Yes.
And so that's what they're basically saying is coming. There's a change coming, and that it involves this. And that's it. 26 contact events with gray aliens. And and for my whole ability to help people with everything I've done, I've also made a rising workbook. So I plug that here too. So I have that, which is available. You can see that on my website. It's available on my website, both the rising workbook, which is just me trying to help out with this whole process, and the story of the rising, available on my website. The rising is hardcover and also ebook, and the rising workbook is just hardcover for the time being. And
nice.
Yeah, that's it. And I just continue to put out presentations, continue to do interviews, and
everything can be found via jeffselver.com.
That's correct. Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great. And I will make sure that, you get all the links and everything else, and that you can share, or, get you some numbers, and let you know how we do, and watch everything start to climb, and it's going to hit over 200 different archive sites. And guys, please check Roku TV for the archives as well. They will be going up there, this show included. And again, I thank you so much. It was just very, very informative and very refreshing to have such positive feedback with it. This is great, because a lot of people, it's pretty dire. So it's nice to have something that's so it's just positive.
It'll help bring people forward to talk about their own experiences and not be so afraid. That's why it's so important to have conversations like this.
Yeah, you got it. And I get a lot of emails that there's not a lot of places for people to talk about positive experiences with certain entities, like with the gray aliens, and they have positive experiences. They feel shunned as well too. And so that you're right. I get a lot of that as well too. So happy to be there for that person.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. Guys, thank you, Amelia.
You're welcome. And people, go out and reach out to Jeff, and if you've had experience, tell them about it.
Yeah, you got it. I'm always open. Totally. Yeah.
All right. Maybe there'll be a part 2.
We got it. Hopefully.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Well, guys, we've come to the end of another fantastic segment. For those listening in, you've been listening to the Outer Realm Radio, our special guest, Jeff Selver. We've been broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network 105.3, 107.7 from New Orleans. We'd like to thank our sponsors, being Folgers Coffee, Justin Snicker, a.k.a. Dr. Snick the Sonic Surgeon, artist Steve McGinnis, who've just been so fortunate. Next week, I know there's been a lot of talk about ley lines and vortexes. Well, we welcome back Wednesday night the return of Dan Shaw, the Vortex Detective, for part 2 of his show. He's going to continue his discussion on vortexes, ley lines, power spots, paranormal connections, and so much more. Last show was phenomenal. This show is going to be phenomenal because this guy knows everything there is to know about this sort of stuff. And he might even throw a little bit of Bermuda Triangle stuff in there. So we'll check it out. And also a special treat for Thursday. We welcome back one of our regular repeat guests, which is Mark Ollie. And this is usually pre-record because he's in the UK, but we're going to do something a little bit different. So he's going to be talking about the real Da Vinci Code. Now, a bit of a treat. What I'll do instead of just doing the pre-record is I will actually put it live only on our channel for those who would like to participate in the chat room, because nobody really gets to ask him questions, and it will be the recording that will be going live at the 9 o'clock time spot. So if those of you guys want to do that, it will be going on from 2 p.m. until 4 p.m. And I will put it in live mode just on our channel only. So you can have a little pre-listen, and you will be able to, of course, go ahead and participate in the chat room. So have a great weekend, everybody. And thank you all for tuning in. You make it that much more fun, that much more special. We love you. So it's like a big old happy out around family. And
Take a deep breath.
I know, right? The Outer Realm family. I know, I love it.
It's Friday Eve.
Yay. So anyway, have a great weekend, and we shall see you guys next week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We love you muchly. Good night.